Hey, how's it going, everyone? Now, SpongeBob is a long-running show. This leads to the question, how old is SpongeBob? He seems to be quite young, yet he owns a house and lives alone. Not to mention, with so many seasons having passed, he must have gotten considerably older by now, right? Well, today let's find out just how old he really is.
By the way, SpongeBob, how old are you?
Well, as of today, I am...
Now, SpongeBob's birthday is July 14th, 1986. You can use this to say that SpongeBob is 13 in episode 1, but Patrick, who he's implied to have a similar age to, has already graduated community college, so that likely isn't the case.
I was just talking to my old community college buddy, Flats.
Assuming SpongeBob has kind of a floating timeline, SpongeBob is supposed to be roughly the same age in every episode. But what is that age? Well, as stated before, SpongeBob and Patrick are likely the same age, and Patrick is confirmed 19 in the Patrick Star Show. Patrick's little sister is 8.
Now that you're 8 years old.
And when she shows up in SpongeBob, she's revealed to be the same age as Pearl, who quite famously is 16. Meaning that by the events of SpongeBob, the show, SpongeBob and Patrick should be roughly 26 or 27. This adds up with Pearl being a baby in Camp Coral, which is a show which features a 10-year-old SpongeBob. To get the rest of the character ages, Sandy's a camper like SpongeBob and Camp Coral, so they're probably the same age. Squidward's a counselor in training and is stated to be slightly older. Definitely not a lot older, since this is what he looked like 1 year before the events of the Camp Coral show. So if we say Squidward was 13 in Camp Coral, he should be exactly 30 by the events of SpongeBob. Mr. Krabs and Plankton share a birthday, so if we figure out one, we figure out both. Mr. Krabs' date of birth is shown to be September 25th, 1960. Now, this does contradict his birthday shown in Sleepy Time, but that was a dream, so I guess it doesn't count. This would also make Mr. Krabs 25 years older than SpongeBob, so he should be roughly 53 during the events of the show, and Mrs. Puff should be roughly the same age. This should apply especially in seasons 13 onwards, because as you might know, Camp Coral and the Patrick Star Show retconned a lot of things. They justified this by revealing that Plankton messed with time in a plot to take the formula and Sandy stopped him, and these retcons happened as a result. In short, the first 12 seasons in the first two movies are in their own timeline, while everything else is in this new timeline. In the first 12 seasons, however, we do see that the characters are likely aging. There are 2 Halloween episodes and 2 Christmas specials, so a year has likely happened. SpongeBob also literally has a birthday episode. Plus, when the time card jumps 75 years in the future, SpongeBob is way older, implying that the time jumps, like those in the time cards, actually do age the characters. So if we use this logic to state that SpongeBob was initially 27 and has been aging ever since, let's find out how old he's become by the end of the original timeline, aka the end of season 12. Now, the 12th episode of SpongeBob, Employee of the Month, it's revealed that SpongeBob has been Employee of the Month for the last 44 months. And since he got hired in the first episode, that means it's been almost 4 years since then. So if SpongeBob is 27 during Pearl's 16th birthday in season 4, then SpongeBob must have gotten hired around age 23 or 24. And in the season 10 episode Whirly Brains, Mr. Krabs states,
Mrs. Puff, we've been dating for 16 years now.
And since they started dating in the season 2 episode Krusty Love, it's been 16 years since then. Building off that, there are 48 episodes in between Employee of the Month and Krusty Love, and 124 episodes between Whirly Brains and the end of season 12. Assuming one episode a day, we get an additional 172 days added. Also, if we include the time cards, this is an additional 7 days up to Krusty Love, and an extra 15 months after Whirly Brains, for a total of 21 years having passed since episode 1, making SpongeBob 45 by the end of season 12. It's at this point that I bring up the SpongeBob movie. Now, there's a reason why a majority of people believe this movie takes place in the future. The reason this ties into the SpongeBob movie is because SpongeBob directly states he has won 374 Employee of the Month awards for a total of 31 years and 2 months. Even if you want to say that the majority of episodes take place 4 years after SpongeBob started working there, that should mean a solid 27 years have passed since season 1. The only counterpoints I've seen towards this is that the SpongeBob movie was a movie made by a documentary crew, and they show props from the movie in storage, using this to imply that the events of the movie have already happened by the events of season 10. However, I argued this isn't the case, since the movie could have merely made use of props they already had in storage. And that while in his 50s, SpongeBob achieves his dream and becomes manager of the Krusty Krab 2. In fact, I would argue there's only one event that takes place after this, SpongeBob's Big Birthday Blowout. This season 12 episode celebrates the 20th anniversary of SpongeBob by celebrating his birthday. In this episode, David Hasselhoff returns, noticeably older than he was in the movie. On top of that, Mindy makes her long-awaited return, and the Krusty Krab is never once shown in this episode, meaning it's entirely likely that SpongeBob is the manager of the Krusty Krab 2 at this point. So if you want to say that the Camp Coral time travel shenanigans reboot the timeline after this point, what better end of the timeline is there than SpongeBob, now a manager, having his birthday celebrated by all his friends, including Patchy the Pirate? Of course, after this, it's an entirely new timeline, season 13 onwards, so SpongeBob will likely be perpetually 27 for the rest of time. Since they essentially wiped the slate clean of continuity. In fact, this could also possibly explain the whole Neptune-Poseidon business. Saying that this is the original Neptune, and this is Neptune 30 years in the future, and that Poseidon is Neptune in this new timeline. I mean, it's possible. Patrick straight up ended up with different parents, so anything is really possible. Though I do think Neptune does show up in the Patrick Star Show, though. But that's a weird show that potentially has time travel, and there's even an episode where they destroy the universe and go live on a near identical parallel universe on some Rick and Morty type beat. So who's to say some nonsense won't happen in the 8 years between these shows to make Neptune become Poseidon? All I'm saying is, with the current state of SpongeBob, it's definitely possible. Or Poseidon is just someone else, I don't know. Well, folks, that's all I got for you today. I hope you enjoyed it, and I'll catch you in the next one. But if you want SpongeBob's true age by the end of the timeline, there is an episode where the world gets frozen for 5 billion years and then unfrozen, so he's canonically over 5 billion years old. Alright, bye!